Welcome back to another episode of Playing Around Wisconsin. This journey began in late 2024, and 2025 promises to take you to new places around the state, hopefully inspiring you to see them for yourself. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Playing Around Wisconsin. Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of Playing Around Wisconsin. We're at Hickory Hills, just south of Eau Claire today. Just finished up my 9 at Pine Meadow. About an 8-minute drive to here from over there, so if you're feeling so inclined like I am today, it's a good way to get a fun 27 holes in. So we got 18 holes here at Hickory Hills, my very first time coming out here, so it should be a fun learning experience for all of us. So let's follow along, have some fun. If you're south of Eau Claire on Highway 93, you cannot miss Hickory Hills. They have a nicely maintained clubhouse and pro shop, and a banquet area for outdoor events. They proudly display all of their award winnings of the last 20 years or so, and I understand why. There's plenty of place to socialize and hang out before or after your round, and a small practice green right by the first tee box where you can roll a few putts before you get out to play. The first hole at Hickory Hills is a 338 downhill dogleg left par 4. Trees on both sides of the fairways encourage a smart play off the tee, and I went into this round knowing I was going to keep my driver in the bag and simply work on my 3-wood. Not knowing the course overall, I took a little bit of an aggressive line off the tee with the 3-wood, forcing me to punch a 7-iron underneath the tree. Thankfully, I had it roll up onto the green and give me a chance for a birdie. The greens at Hickory Hills are not very big and have a lot of movement on them, as you can see here from this birdie putt. So keep in mind, you got to be accurate and try to keep the ball below the hole. Hole number 2 is a tough little par 3 up the hill at about 158 yards from the back tees. Low-key, one of my favorite things at Hickory Hills are these hole signs. Super duper old school. I love it. The hole plays about 10 yards uphill, so make sure you club up off the tee. I made the mistake of not doing so and hit a kind of a poor shot, so I came up pretty short. This angle really shows just how far up the slope this hole gets as you get closer to the green. And with the green being so small and blind from the tee, this is really a challenging par 3. So, moral of the story on this hole, just make sure you have enough club off the tee. And also, don't be fooled by the overall length of this course and its overall score to par at 63 on a full 18 holes. You gotta respect this place, for sure. The third hole brings you back down the hill from the slope you just came up on hole number 2. It's all out of bounds on the left side of the fairway, so trying to err on the right side of the fairway off the tee is the smart play. But if you make a mistake like I did, you're going to make this hole a lot longer than you need to. A sliced 3-wood off the tee forced me to manage some trees that line the right side of the fairway, and ultimately left myself not in a position to score. If I were to come back to Hickory Hills anytime soon, I'd definitely take driver off the tee, as at 365 yards, again, this plays a little bit longer than the number might indicate on the scorecard. And with another small green, sacrificing any sort of yardage off the tee might put you behind the 8 ball, so learn from my lesson, don't be too shy on this hole. Hole number 4 at 268 yards from the back tees, blast away on this hole. Give yourself an opportunity to score, for sure. Playing by my philosophy of keeping my driver in the bag and working on my 3-wood, I made the choice that I made. I don't regret it at all. But again, going back like the hole number 3, I might pull a different club off the tee just to give myself a better opportunity. Another small green, particularly a narrow one on hole number 4 here. Make sure if you're going to miss, try to miss on the left side. You're going to give yourself a much more easy second shot into the green. Hole number 5 is essentially the opposite of hole number 2. The second hole is parallel to the fifth on the right side of it, so essentially that same hill you went up, you're going right back down. The green size stays within the theme of everything thus far at being incredibly small. So if you're going to be inaccurate off the tee, be prepared to put your scrambling to the test. At only 289 yards from the back tees, hole number 6 at Hickory Hills is not, of course, particularly very long. And something to keep in mind, and I think this is really the defining feature on this hole, is that the green is particularly slim, and going across the green, left or right, is going to be really challenging. I apologize for having the wrong settings on my GoPro there, but I was able to walk away with a birdie. So, try to keep the ball short on 6 and go for the center of the green because it falls off on both sides. 7th hole. It's a tight little par 3. Goes right up next to the parking lot, and it has a false front on the green. If you're going to miss, I think the safest miss is on the right. I missed short and left, short of the false front, so thankfully I had a pretty nice pitch shot up and gave myself a chance just to tap in for a par. But keep in mind, this hole is not a very easy one, especially with the wind doing what it was doing when I was able to get out and play at Hickory Hills. Another hole you gotta respect. And speaking of respect, moving on to hole number 8, 330 yards from the back tees, I would consider this probably the signature hole at Hickory Hills, with a small walking bridge and a very nicely placed fountain in the water hazard on the right. This hole is certainly aesthetically pleasing. There is plenty of property to miss on the right, although there are a lot of trees you'd have to tend with, but at least you're not going to put yourself in position to put the ball in the water hazard. Another false front on the green. I actually nuked my second shot over and had to hit down the slope going from the back to the front of the green. Put a lot larger of a score on the card than I should have and could have had I played the hole a little bit differently. So, play the hole intelligently, don't put any of that garbage into play, and walk off with a better score than I did. Hole number 9 comes back to the clubhouse running opposite of hole 8 with the water being on the right side of this hole. Soft dogleg left, cutting the dogleg with anything about 200 yards or more will put you into this opening with a pretty normal, simple shot up to the green. So playing this hole over again, I would have taken a little bit more club, but really stuck that same line just to keep the water on the right out of play. With the green being so small on this and how much it falls off to the right, I would say on this hole and every other hole here at Hickory Hills, play to the largest part of the green. Don't get too greedy and try to flag hunt. You might put yourself in a tougher position on a miss. Making turn to the back 9, we are going to experience a lot more par 3s tucked between some trees. The 10th hole is a pretty narrow par 3 with a lot of tree line on the left that you're going to have to navigate if you hit a high cut onto one of the larger greens on the golf course. I hustled to get a quick par in, playing through a group of 4 gentlemen who were so kind as to let me get through and make it through the back 9 pretty swiftly. A 273-yard par 4, hole number 11 is a sharp dogleg left, and if you're playing from the back tees like me, you're going to have a tough time trying to cut it. I was very fortunate to make it through some of the tree limbs overhanging the left side of the tee box, and it gave myself a pretty short wedge into the green. I don't know if I would ever get quite as courageous or brave off the tee playing this hole again, but ultimately, play smart. Don't bring anything unnecessary into play, especially with the water on the left. But however you play this hole, hopefully you can have a birdie, just like me. Making it to hole 12 was a huge sigh of relief. At 178 yards from the back tees, it's particularly long par 3 for the golf course at Hickory Hills, and it has one of the largest greens on the course. So My eyes got real big off the tee, knowing I had a lot larger of a target to hit into. So when you make it to hole number 12 in your round, do not be shy and appreciate just how big of a target you have compared to just about everything else out here. On to hole number 13. It's almost as long as the 12th hole, just 7 yards shorter on the card from the back tees. I would say the trickiest part of this hole is making sure you have accurate alignment off the tee, because the tee markers in the box face a little different direction than where the green actually is. And with the wind in my face, being a little bit offline, and executing a fairly poor tee shot, I had myself a little bit longer of a chip shot, pitch shot up to the green than I would have normally wanted. But thankfully here on 13 as well, we do have one of the larger greens on the course, especially in relation to the ones we've experienced up to this point. So don't be too shy, make sure you have a right place to aim on 13. The 14th is a short and fun par 4. 320 yards from the back tees at Dog Lakes to the right, and the small greens have returned to Hickory Hills. After finding the fairway and putting the ball onto the green, I treated myself to an ice-cold lemonade from a kiddo selling from their house off to the right of the hole. If she's out there selling when you come play Hickory Hills, make sure you treat yourself to a glass, tip her well, and hopefully it's better birdie juice for you than me. But tasty, refreshing, and a nice touch nevertheless. Number 15 is a short par 3 with a 3-tiered green. I personally hit a pretty high ball, so the trees surrounding the tee box actually impacted my gap wedge that I tried to put up onto the green. So I wound up short, as you can see, which is actually a better leave than anywhere on the right or left, just because the tiers of the green are pretty severe, and another small one here at Hickory Hills that you have to hit into. I think the 16th hole at Hickory Hills has a really cool look to it. The trees behind the green give it an amphitheater kind of feel that I really appreciate. Not a great tee shot here from me, but one thing I didn't notice until approaching the green was the significant basin that is on the left side of the green. So if you put your tee shot on the wrong part of the green, a 3-putt can come into play here pretty quickly. I was personally disappointed to walk away with a bogey on this hole, especially after leaving the ball short off the tee. But overall, I would imagine there's a lot of 4s on the scorecard, or even more, simply because of all the undulations on this green. The 17th is a third and final par 4 on the back 9 at Hickory Hills. The trees that surround the green and your approach shot on both sides, I would say, are a deterrent from pulling a driver, especially if you're hitting it a little errantly off the tee. So as it turns out, hitting a 3-wood incredibly fat leaves you at about 100 yards up to the green. The green is on the larger side, especially in comparison to the other ones at Hickory Hills, so don't be too bashful on your approach shot. But with the green sloping from back to front, short is probably going to be better, and even if whatever that was flies into your eye, you still might be able to can a birdie putt. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I'm pretty happy with that result. The back 9 at Hickory Hills ends very, very similarly to how it began, with a roughly 160-yard par 3. There's a lot more area to miss on the right, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to miss it on the right like I did. I was disappointed to have to give back the stroke that I just gained on the last hole, but still, I had a fantastic time coming up to Eau Claire and playing Hickory Hills. In closing, I really wish this place was a little closer to home for me. I've only played one other course in the area, but I can absolutely understand why this place gets a lot of votes for being the best in the area. Friendly people, a well-maintained course, and a place that you can challenge yourself in ways that are going to improve your game. What more can you ask for? Get your butts out to Hickory Hills and see this place for yourself. And as always, thank you so much for watching another episode of Playing Around Wisconsin. Don't forget to subscribe, like, do all the things you need to do to get that algorithm going for me, and we'll see you next time.